really matter, right? Like you've been ahead on board up until that point and you've dealt like 15 plus damage. At that point, you just get there with hero powers before Rogue is ever able to like really reestablish and threaten you back. So I think this is a very, very strong matchup for the Hunter, personally. Oh, wife into Obama. Oh, the dream.
This is a tough call. If I was RDU, I'd just keep it because it's funny. But like, surely against Rogue, this cannot be the keep.
All right, let's explain what those nonsense words that came out of my mouth actually mean. So Barak Kodobane is a card that's in the deck. It draws a 1 and 2 and 3 cost spell, as you can see on the screen. Mankrik shuffles the 3/10 charge into the deck, which is Mankrik Enraged. When it's shuffled in there, it becomes the only 3-cost spell in the deck, which means when you play Barak Kodobane, you pull out like a tracking or a wound prey and a quick shot, but also you pull out the 3/10 charger from your deck, which is an absolutely insane amount of stats on turn 5. However, the problem is just how slow your hand is going to be if you keep that combination. And personally, I don't think I would keep it here in this scenario.
I would just like to shout out as well, because I don't think you mentioned it unless I just stopped listening. When the Mankrik Enrage, or the wife, gets pulled, you then still draw another random card from your deck
I did
as
not
well.
mention that.
So it is very powerful, because not only do you get the 3/10, you just draw X card from your deck with no mana cost restriction. So like it actually becomes, you kind of even drawing 4 cards, right? Well, RDU did keep it. I'm very excited to see how this pans out, because although I'd love to keep it, I think I would have agreed with you and thrown it at this point.
Yeah. I'm watching it pan out. I'm wondering if I am just straight up wrong though, because I'm watching it play out and I'm trying to think of like the sequence of Rogue plays that would pressure me enough on the other side for this to not be good. And it's like only some kind of nutty Octobot start, right? But since Penflinger's gone, they can't really proc their own Octobot effectively because you're not playing a 1-drop. You've kept a hand that doesn't have a 1-drop in it. So your first minion is a dormant 5/4. So I don't think that nutty Octobot hand ever actually happens. So maybe this keep is actually just good.
Yeah, I mean, there is prize plunderer, sorry, to do it sometimes. But you are right; it is significantly more awkward. Rigged fair game, haha.
I mean, that's the optimist's choice, yeah.
Not even I would pick that, so that's where we're at right now.
And okay.
Good
First
for Leta there,
probably.
just letting a little minion soak that up and not hitting the Octo.
Oh! Filth.
Oh, I think RDU would absolutely love an Adorable Infestation right now.
He certainly would, yeah. To the point where I'm wondering if he's considering like Kolkar Quickshot here to not go, because even if he plays the Warsong Wrangler this turn, like Kodobane is still better than Rhino next turn, right? So I don't think the Rhino will be his turn 5 play. So maybe he just clears up this turn with the Pack Runner. I think this is fine.
Yeah, I agree. A part of me wouldn't have overly hated leaving the Octo up and just letting them proc it.
Yeah.
Just to push, what, 3 extra? I think, although it sounds like not a lot, it's like, Leta's still on 30 and it's nearly turn 5.
It is upsetting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I am also quite perturbed.
But that is the choice that obviously RDU has made with this keep, right? Because he's going to deal minimum 3 next turn, obviously, because he can go for the Barak, and then whatever else is left. And he's going to have a very difficult board for Leta to deal with, even if just the 3/10 lives.
Yeah, but it really does come down. I think the Felmore waking up really led the way that turn, because obviously the Felmore could have hit the Octobot, which would have been great, right? And then RDU has no problems. The Felmore could have also gone face, at which point I think RDU would have followed that lead and just been more aggressive because he already got 5 free damage. Because the Felmore did the bad thing and just hit one of the small minions and kind of guaranteed that that Octobot was going to go off, I think RDU just kind of followed that lead and played a bit more for value. And again, like I think you put it great, like his keep has kind of led him to playing the game in this style, and it's not one I've really been too used to seeing. But still, we'll wait and see.
Can we just get a double check on the Golem? It's Rush and something.
I would love to help you out, but my observer has crashed.
You're here for one thing, Sottle.
This is what you get for asking for things, Raven, honestly.
Okay, so RDU does have the option of going for the Kodo Bane, and I think with this keep, it sounds very dumb to say this, but I think with this keep, he can't not play this, but he did have good options without it, right?
He did.
Because he had a way to proc the pack leader. He would have buffed his Mankrik, so he could have value traded potentially. Like, this was a good turn without Barak.
It is rush +2/+2, by the way.
Thank you. This game's actually super close.
It is, yeah.
Because this Flame Strike is pretty good. Not this turn, of course, but... Even this, right? You can just play the Golem and trade the 3/5. Oh, wait. Will he bump into the 3/10?
Option.
Clear it off, okay.
Yeah, I'm flip-flopping again, but, you know, it's not a keep that I've ever been presented with. Obviously, the exact keep of Mankrik and Kodo Bane is rare, and so I've never actually specifically had it in this matchup, so I'm not entirely sure where I come down on it, so I'm just kind of watching the game evolve. But now, having seen a bit more, it feels like that keep has pushed the game in more of a mid-rangey direction, and being mid-rangey is something that Rogue does better than Face Hunter does. Whereas just outright aggression early is what where Hunter really shines.
Because they can just out-tempo you at this point, right? That's the fit.
Yeah.
What makes something real?
Oh. Both of those minions are good.
Okay.
I do believe Bryathon is playing Razormane in one of his decks in America.
Of course he is. Yep. Oh, brilliant.
I'm 99.9% sure. It is a good effect though, right? Like, it obviously it's maybe not good enough to just put in a deck, but its effect as a 5/6 gets to, basically swing twice in a turn. It's very powerful.
Yeah. The unfortunate part here is that he doesn't have anything zero cost in his hand to be able to proc it immediately, which would be a big deal, right? If he could just actually use it as a bootleg rush minion this turn.
What if he weakened it and then Shadow Stepped it? And then he could Guardian Og Merchant it. Oh, combos.
Piercing Shot says damage on it. Did he take Pack Runner? He did take Pack Runner, okay.
Just wants to dominate the board.
He does just want to dominate the board.
So, at this point, he has to go face with everything, right? The 1/1 trade obviously was fine.
Yep.
But surely he can run he can track in, I think, this turn?
I imagine that's what's happening if he took Pack Runner. Like, I'm
yeah.
very unsure on the Pack Runner pick generally, but if he's taking it, then it's absolutely a tracking play that's happening here. And then he rushes the 1/1 into the Jandis just so he can deal with that problem, and then just send everything that can go face to the face. Just one less damage. Okay. He gets to keep an extra 1/1 on board this way, I suppose.
And it's more stuff for the 5/6 to miss into.
True.
It's starting to come together.
Now we press Flame Strike.
Yeah, and then he can clear with the double bump, right?
Yeah. If you go Brain Freeze first, then your second attack is guaranteed to go face, which I think you're interested in, right? Because you're setting up the race.
Yes.
Yep, I like this.
So I like this, but Leta needs to be careful about what he leaves on board now because rhinos exist, especially after this turn. So he won't want low health minions to live. He'll, if anything, try and trade them off or not play them at all. But he's a different plan here for RDU, going super wide again, and you know what? I like it.
So how much damage is this? It's 5, 9, 12. If he Shadow Step, oh my goodness, 15. If he Shadow Step this and he Shadow Step this and auged it, and it went face. That's still only 20. So he doesn't have any lethal outs at the moment, as far as I can see.
You don't pick the ones, see?
That helps. A little bit.
Yeah, not enough though.
That's an upgrade. Probably.
Is this the right way to do this?
I'll be honest, probably not. I'm not sure, but there was a lot of options, and he just suddenly made the turn, so...
Yeah, no, it's fine, it's fine. He couldn't have cleared any more.
Oh, was that tracking? Oh,
piercing shot.
Yeah, there you go. That is going to end the game. RDU takes it in quite a strange game of Hearthstone, if I'll be honest. This is not how you'd normally see a Face Hunter play out. A very cool and interesting keep. One that I'm not sure whether it's technically correct or not, but it worked and it was just about enough. I think his endgame came together very well, that he could go so wide that even one attack minions hitting face was a big deal. And then, like, the Hunter versus Rogue factor kicked in. It just kicked in about 6 turns later than it normally does in the matchup, I think.
Yeah, I think RDU played that differently than I would, but I don't think he played it worse than I would have. It's just I would not have pushed that game in like the mid-rangey direction that he did, but him having done that, I think he stuck to that plan excellently and executed it really, really well, and it still looked really comfortable for him. So I think, honestly, what I'm taking away from that more than anything is that that's just a solid matchup, and there's more than one road to El Dorado.
Yeah, I think again, it's tough, right? Like, oh, that convinces me it's a more solid matchup. With that opening, you'd hope it would be okay. You know what I mean? But it's hard to as Face Hunter, right?
Right.
Because there are obviously, there are openings that really look bad, and the second rogue lands an Octo, and you have like a 1/1 on the board, and that's it, which the openings do exist. It's like, oh, well, do I just lose now? So really, really difficult, but RDU is going to go 1-0 up, of course. I do believe we are going to dive into that Sol's favorite deck, which is that Token Druid from RDU going up against Leta's Miracle Priest.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I think this is a very unique matchup because it's essentially 2 decks with the goal of making enormous boards that both have kind of very limited tools in able to deal with enormous boards on the other side, right? Because like Miracle Priest does sacrifice a lot of the best control tools that are available to Priest, like Soul Mirror, for example, is not a card you can play in your deck because it ruins all of your pools. It's not like it just messes with Raise Dead like it does in normal Priest sometimes. It can also mess with Rally, right? Which you need to be 100% consistent to actually execute your win condition a lot of the time. So their mass removal for Token Druid boards is kind of just limited to Condemns and then hoping that they can get Hysteria to work as well. Anything outside of that, they need to generate from Miracle Turns and from Sethic Veilweavers to try and make something happen. But likewise, if the Priest is able to generate that first huge board, the Druid just has, honestly, as soon as you see, them have 2 Sethics and 2 Nazmanis on board and you can't kill them with the minions you have, just concede. Like, the game's over for Druid at that point. They have no way to get back into the game. Outside of, I guess, resizing Pouch, which now we have to throw out there as the caveat to every situation. So things are very, very chaotic matchup.
Yeah, I think Mary Poppins had one of those as well, and had all the answers. Just look at this list. I would like to point out, you are right in the how you broke down the matchup, of course, but I think the second Leta does not draw his minions almost on curve. He's in a mess, right?
Yes.
And I know this could be argued that this is the description of every matchup as Miracle Priest, but there are a lot of other matchups where you can play way slower, whereas if you wait and have to wait and wait, so on turn 5 you've played one of the minions and it's died. What do you do? You're dead on turn 5 against the Druid. So I think this is going to be a really big struggle for Leta, this specific matchup, because I think Token Druid will just get there. Even if it has to wait a little bit, it will still be faster than the Priest.
Yeah, interesting, of course, Leta's build of the deck plays Blademaster Samuro, which is a little different. I think Zyrella is more common. There's 2 players who kind of jam this deck all day in High Legend right now. It's Xananan and Deaddraw, who both stream kind of endless hours of this deck, and they both run the Zyrella build instead, whereas Leta is the player playing it competitively right now, and he is running Blademaster Samuro, which I would imagine, if I had to put my hat on the line, I would say that it's a little bit better against Token Druid specifically. To have the Blademaster, because it has that ability to actually tempo swing, right, and leave a minion behind after the fact, whereas Zyrella kind of caps out on the amount of damage that it can deal a lot of the time. So we will wait and see.
And also as well, against Token Druid, it has less of a cap, right, to get something done. Like, you can just play Blade Master straight, and it can do enough sometimes, whereas you can't just play Zarella. Well, you can, it would just be really bad. So, yeah, I think I'm with you on that, definitely. Against some of the more, like, smaller minion base, then you would prefer it in general. But let's dive straight in. It's going to be game number 2 between RDU and Leta. RDU on the top on that Druid, and again, Token Druid mulligans I feel are very strange. Like, what do you think RDU's even looking for right now? Is it just Fungal Fortunes? And of course, I mean, I'm not even going to ask about Gibbling. He gets every time.
Oh, yeah, I've already told you. It doesn't matter what he mulligans for. He gets Gibbling every game. Self-confessed. Game's over.
I guess, like, my question is, like, with this hand, what's more powerful, the Gibbling or the fact he has Fungal Fortunes?
Yeah, this hand's like right on the line, right? Because he's on coin with Gibbling, but he doesn't have Nature Studies or Adorable, which are kind of the premium cards to go with it a lot of the time. He just has the power of the... Or Pouch, yeah, of course, you are absolutely correct. Wow, Leta actually immediately just goes for the Soul Mirror here, which shows you where his head is at in the matchup. But yeah, I do think this could lean either way in a hurry for RDU with the hand he has here. Whereas from Leta's side, he kept the Insight because that is more like one of his minions than most of the other cards in his deck. And then outside of that, he looked for his minions.
Also, I just want to point out that RDU is actually not running Pouch. It's just we like to joke about it at this point. He's running Double Guidance as his choice, which is clearly inferior to the Pouch that can get you anything. Long-Growth Sentry is going to come out. Not a terrible start. And again, you see, like, RDU's chosen not to go nuts with the Gibbering, right? And by nuts, I just mean, like, coin something. So...
Whoa.
Bloom. So Fungal this turn and then just do your setup.
Yeah, the hand is certainly starting to suggest that Brian Gibbling needs to hit the board sooner rather than later.
Leta did get the Nazmani down, though, on curve, which is a big deal.
It is, yeah.
So RDU's, I imagine, currently wrestling with, does he try and kill the Nazmani, or does he just play the game?
You have to, right? Like, it's super efficient with Power of the Wild and Adorbs. If you can trade in with one of the taunts for 2 and one of the taunts for 3 and just job done. I think that's fine.
Time waits for no one.
We will know by where this infestation goes. Yep, this is the decision point right here as to whether he's killing it or not.
Yeah.
And he's going to go Solar Power.
Well, maybe I'll just call it Solar Power because it's just got the word solar in it.
What? It's solar.
Oh, Solar Power.
Power. What do you mean?
I was reading a message Lorinda sent me about that bristleback earlier about and just wasn't even watching. I just thought
it's really not that complicated.
It's going to apply Solar Power to the board. I was like, it's not called Solar Power. So, getting back to actually reasonable discussion, what does Leta have to do, or what can he do? Like, what is he even looking for at this point? Because this is looking pretty dicey.
I mean, it's come down on turn 4, which is utterly miserable, which means, you know, not even rank 2 Condemn would make a dent in this. Not that it would anyway, because RDU got to double up on his Power of the Wild buff. You ask me what he needs to do, Raven, the simple answer is probably play a different game of Hearthstone, because this one is not looking like it.
The problem as well is, even if this is, it's say there's not lethal as guidance comes in time for RDU, even if this is not lethal this turn, which isn't on board, then Leta can't even do anything if he top decks Rally, right? Because he doesn't have anything to, like, go, even with the most sort of basic and best rallies.
Wait, how much is this? 19 and 23
without
with
the
the
Moon
amulet?
Touch. Wait, what? 23? Yeah. I mean, you can just wait, right? He doesn't have to do anything. And he might just end up fungling next turn or something. Like, there's so many options when he's got Bloom.
So now he goes Power Word Hysteria. But it only cleans up 3 minions, right? Most of the time? No, all of the time, in fact. Which just leaves 9 on the board, and Moon Touch Amulet is going to end the game. 2-0 for RDU.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And honestly, like, there aren't at least the way I see it, obviously you had the gibbering turn, but I don't see too many times that this general outcome doesn't just happen. I think like things have to go very right for the priest player and very wrong for the druid player for the priest to get in that spot where they have, you know, like the giant titans on board that they can then just win with the infinite turns. So yeah, I think that was just a very, very difficult matchup, and I guess one of the reasons why druid's looking okay is against these decks that are just a touch slower, then that one touch is enough, right?
Yeah, so that, you know, that turn, obviously, it ended up being a bunch of Gibblers, but it could have also just been, you know, Vate Glowfly Swarm, for example, right? And not been a 4-card combo and just been a 2-card combo instead. And the crucial thing is, as long as you get that down before the priest hits 5 mana, they still don't really have an answer to that either, because they don't have rank 2 Condemn at that point. So the only games where priest really manages to climb into that is where the druid has a particularly slow start, you know, where it's just like fungal into guess the weight to accrue resources, and then priest manages to get to 5 mana relatively unscathed. Then maybe they can fight, and then maybe they're in the matchup. But if you have any kind of quick opener as the druid, you're generally going to blow out the game.
Does mean we are going to go to RDU on his Rogue as the final deck, and you know, he could take this as a 3-0 and just finish the day early, I guess, for him. Looking at the list here, it looks, again, extremely standard. This is like almost like the back end of last week's list, I guess. Close enough. The Cult Neophytes and Foxy Frauds are in there, of course, because there's no Penflingers, but yeah, overall just a good list. There's the Alex Straza with the Tenwu as the potential late game combo, but yeah, in general it's just good Rogue, and I think this is just if you want to start playing some Rogue, this is a good starting point, right, regardless of what type you'd end up liking.
Yeah, very much agree. With all of Leta's decks up to play against now from the other side as well. So Leta definitely has an uphill climb in this one. And still, I believe that Miracle Priest is underperforming on stream when it comes down to it, because I believe he got reverse swept in one of the series that I didn't cast last week while either Derek or Lorindo was filling in. 0-3 all on the Miracle Priest, is that correct?
I believe so. He definitely lost more than once with it. So yeah, that's definitely true. Just checking this out. Oh, go on. Sorry.
I was just saying, obviously, like, you have to highlight it, right? When someone brings what's clearly like a pet deck to a tournament repeatedly, you know, we brought it up, for example, like Yarla kept bringing Galakron Warlock, so we had to focus on how he was performing with it, which, you know, occasionally wasn't very well. And it's the same thing with Hunter-Ace in the season before. So when someone brings a little bit of an off-meta deck week after week after week and they aren't performing, you kind of have to at least ask the questions about whether they should continue to do so. It's
tough though, right? Because last week Leta brought it, he even got out of groups because he played in top 8, right?
I mean,
this week he's
out of groups. Well, I mean, he's on stream at least, right? So he's won a game.
Yeah, and like this week again, and you know, he might still win, and then if he wins, of course Miracle Rogue I think the problem is, honestly, Miracle Rogue looks terrible when it loses. Like, Priest. I think sorry, Miracle Priest, apologies. Yeah, it looks like the deck shouldn't ever exist when it loses, but when it can like start to fight, it looks like the most incredible deck that's ever been made. It looks like it shouldn't be allowed. So I think it is just an extreme deck, whether it's an extreme loss or win. And like I said, Leta's made it to stream both weeks. He got top 8 last week, so it is winning games. It's just whether, I guess the question is, would another deck do more? Really, right?
Right.
Let's dive into it, and I think Leta wants some revenge here, queuing his token druid to say, well, how do you like it, RDU? But we'll get to see a Gibbling.
I'm going to assume when this hand appears for RDU that we're all going to be very unimpressed by what we see, because I think RDU has already seen it and gave it the full-blown stank face when it came into his hand. Yep, no, that's not looking great, is it?
Got his endgame plan sorted. I thought you were going to say, I'm sure when we see this hand come into RDU's, it's going to have a Gibbling in it. And I was like, what? He's against Druid. He's not playing as Druid.
I'm sure when we see this opening hand, it's going to be the absolute nuts, because it's RDU and he doesn't draw anything else. Actually, this is a very poor opener from RDU, has to be said.
Coin Swindle does help a little bit, though. Obviously, it's not exactly what he wants to do, but it does help him at least dig. One Thief can help a lot. Brain Freeze is there for like the early minion development from Druid.
Okay. Pep presents some interesting options over the coming turns, but this turn looks like just a dagger.
But use the turn to Tenwu Shadow Step and really get ready for that turn 10.
Fair, yeah.
Leta's probably just sat there thinking, why can't I make a Gibbling board on this turn?
Yeah, exactly.
He does have a Glowfly though, which, you know, can help a lot. Especially since RDU's had a slow start.
Sufficient.
Probably just Brain Freeze. 2-0 mana Brain Freezes seems like a place I want my hand to be at.
I did briefly glance at Flurry, but I was like, nah, Brain Freeze is just too good.
Yeah, agreed. Alright, it's Glowfly into Glowfly now for Leta. RDU has the option to preload up on Golem here.
Has this just worked out, Sol? I made all the jokes about RDU prepping for his combo, but how quickly can he get this combo? Because it might be pretty soon.
Stealth Life still poisonous. I imagine Stealth is the most beneficial here, just so you at least get to control some tempo. And deal 3 to 2 is the juice. He might even want to look at Summon a Copy if he picks Stealth, though, because he's honestly not far off and just straight up racing and ignoring whatever board his opponent has at this point.
I was even looking, dependent, like, it's very difficult to do, of course, but I was even looking at, like, is it ever proc the Octo somehow and then Shadow Step the Octo and, like, massively reduce the hand down?
It is deal 3 lifesteal, by the way, is what he chose.
Initiating overdrive.
That hand. Oh my goodness.
So much damage.
Octobot. Like, it's literally just 2 mana Emperor Thaurissan. Like, why don't people talk about this? That's genuinely what it is.
Arguably with a better stat line for Thaurissan.
Yeah.
Right? It's just got better stat lines.
It costs 2, Raven. You can play it on turn 2. You can play it on turn 1.
Play it on turn none with a resizing patch.
Great point.
Because anything's possible. There is a... Oh. Very interesting. What he wants to do with Shadow Step interests me greatly.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's like... Shadow Step on this Octo would not be the worst thing. If he procs it again, he's a turn away from just Alex in the face and then being able to play 0 mana Tenwu to then Alex in the face again for 16 over 2 turns.
Right.
And I've gone actually beyond the point of joking about this, and I'm actually being very serious.
It is a realistic out, but, you know, he does also have to use other Hearthstone cards to not die himself in the interim, right? Like, that is,
Yes.
There is a thing he's going to have to look out for.
Yeah, for me, it's just the fear that, let's say this 1-2 dies, his hand looks very poor after that point, right?
Yes.
Glowfly, though, huge deal, of course, for Leta. He's able to develop another board and say, let's go again.
Value trades the One Thief, paying respects to the Shadow Step.
Yep.
Oh, Shadow Step is going to punish him anyway. I think you just step that and play Jandis, right? Is that stupid? Do I have too much faith in Jandis?
I think he has. I think he has to play it because of Pride Fury, right? Like he might never. They might never kill Anthony again. Then like just don't step them. And this is cute.
Sure. I'll do this. If we're clearing, don't we just want to go all in and clear?
What harm can a 2/2 do?
I mean, it's Token Druid. Quite a lot. Like, your opponent can, like, Solar Arbor up this turn, right? And then all of a sudden you just don't have a 5/5 anymore.
Yep. Solar Power Arbor. Seems good.
No, you can't play all those cards this turn, Raven. You still haven't quite understood how this works, have you?
You know that wasn't what I meant.
I know.
I mean, I'm trying to see if there's anything else, but there just isn't, is there? Soul of the Forest just doesn't exist if you can't go wide.
Right. Fog Beam does cost 0. Pretty huge. I guess Lunar Eclipse technically costs 0 as well. Picky Poison.
Fog Beam because it actually costs 0.
And Solar Arbor. Can kill the 5/5 and the 3/2.
Wrong. Well, Jandis, Wicked Stab into a Tempo Alex Straza, I think, is on the menu here for RDU.
Those are large.
Yeah, not too bad, right? Just fine. Like, they weren't terrible, and one's got taunt.
So I think now because you have a 5/5 taunt, you double trade into 1/6/4 and then stab the other, right? So that there's not good breakpoints.
Sure.
RDU disagrees. Fair enough. Yes, there's also the option that he has just put the illusion on the taunt there. In which case, obviously, protecting the breakpoints doesn't really matter.
This is so scary for RDU because if this doesn't work, he doesn't have any cards. Like, Field Contact is the glue of this deck, isn't it? Like, when it's played, you just have access to every card available. When it's not played, you just whimper a little bit.
Also, Nature. It's probably just Bloom. Yeah. Still no real premium minion generation. No board in a can really left in his hand at this point. It's going to be a scrappy ending to this game, I think.
Yeah, Soul the Forest is kind of a board in a can.
Soul the Forest, that's true.
And he could just like trade now and do it, right?
Yeah, just play the minions.
Yeah, I like this.
Bloom the Soul. Yeah, that is too. And he has Pride's Fury to follow this up. Yeah, this definitely looks like the lines. Looks very, very clean.
Ugh.
Yikes, that's ugly. Just like willingly has to trade his illusion.
When you make the value trade,
It's miserable.
Did he? Wait, what did he Alex then? I blinked and missed it.
7/5.
Ah, okay, cool.
It's 11 on board, plus 6, 17, plus 6 again. 20. Wait, isn't it just lethal? 2, 4, 6, 8. Oh, it's 9 on board. I counted 11 to start with for some reason. Nope, he is 2 off. Never mind me.
Wait, was he? I thought I just counted lethal. He had 2 more treants, right?
Was it 11 on board to begin with? If it was 11 on board to begin with, I'm pretty sure that was lethal.
He had 2 more treants. He had those 3 and 2 more, and the one on board.
Okay.
It's quiet.
Someone check the replay.
Quiet.
He went too fast for me.
Either way, unlikely that Leta is going to get punished for it. Yeah, TJ confirms in our Discord that my initial count was correct. It's just 11 plus 6 plus 6. Very weird lethal to spot in that, because it's just like all of your damage plus all of your cards equals lethal.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it's a weird thing to miss.
And also, like, Power of the Wild is just +1 to each minion. It's not like, I don't know.
Yeah, it was.
It's not like strange numbers and strange buffs, right? It's like, well, +1 for every minion.
He could play 2 cards out of Power of the Wild, and Pride's Fury, and any combination of 2 of those 3 cards was lethal. Just weird.
Bit of a strange one there, but Leta does take it. And as you mentioned, I think, miss lethal or not, never good to miss lethal, especially on stream. But he was so far ahead anyway. I literally don't think there was a turn from RDU that could exist that would have dug him out of that situation. And a really tough one, honestly. I think RDU made, I feel, a lot of really good decisions here, but was just limited by no field contact all game. He instead had 10 Wu Alex Straza stuck in hand for a long time. And I think, 1 field contact in this game can look very, very different.
Yeah, there were small things that, you know, maybe I'd like to talk to RDU about that probably wouldn't have made a difference, like whether to full clear on that one turn where I was questioning whether to full clear or not, that would have protected his 5/5 lifesteal golem in the end, but I don't think that ends up, you know, being a big enough deal to really change the result of the game. I think, you know, RDU scrapped as best he could. He did have a very, very poor opening hand. It improved rapidly by getting into the Octobot and being able to discount everything very quickly, but, you know, I think when you just have Tenwu Alexstrasza in your opening hand, you're in for some misery. And honestly, that's a big criticism of that build of the deck that some people have, and it's one of the things that's kind of caused people to move towards Secret Rogue a little bit, is that Rogue doesn't feel like a deck where you want to carry those dead cards in your hand for the late game. Like, Rogue, good Rogue decks right now just seem to very efficiently cycle through their entire deck, just recycling their hand over and over and over again. And if you have an Alexstrasza stuck in your hand, or if you rip an Alexstrasza off the top on a field contact turn, or if you rip an Alexstrasza off a secret passage, that can just block you so hard, right, from actually doing what the deck wants to do. And that's kind of what we saw there from RDU's opening hand.
And obviously, when you have a bad opening like that and you don't draw a field contact, well, that's a complete mess. Because you could argue that bad openings aren't as bad because you could just draw the rest of your deck with field contact, right? But obviously, if you don't hit it, then bit of a problem. But let's go straight into this. It's Miracle Priest once again for Leta. And again, this is a tricky matchup because although Rogue can be aggressive, it's like currently not really built to have aggressive minions. It's aggressive by removing minions and keeping board of like little dudes. But Leta doesn't overly care if his minions are removed initially, because when he summons them back, they're going to be insane. So I'm very interested to see how this matchup will go.
I coin Foxy Swindle here, follow it up with the Octobot. Max pressure on board.
Foxy Swindle sounds like an old dance move, doesn't it?
Does a bit, actually, now you mention it. You're okay with Foxy Swindle, but not Solar Power, even though it's the exact same naming convention.
It's no. Solar Power's a real thing.
You're a real thing.
Thank you. The Octo coming down now. Again, a weird matchup for Octo because Leta almost like never has to proc this himself.
No.
It's kind of strange, right?
I mean, it does mean if like significant pressure builds up to the point where you have to condemn it, right? Like if a field contact turn happens with a bunch of stuff coming down and you just have to condemn, like sometimes you do just have to pull that trigger.
Yeah, I guess what I mean is it's more likely that like it trades into a minion because Leta just plays a minion. You know what I mean? And both and the two main minions, obviously, well, any of the minions it takes good trades into and procs the effect.
Sick! Oh, I saw that so quickly. That's such a cool play.
Yeah, I was going to suggest it, but I just wanted to finish my sentence.
Yeah, of course you were. Of course you were, Raven. I imagine he already had it in mind just as a way to deny the discount, right? Because it was something that was available. If kind of any third minion got played there, it's something that he'd probably pre-planned. That he just jammed it so quickly there. But he can make all the cool plays he wants. It's all going to be completely irrelevant if he's just not able to draw a single minion out of his deck. And that's kind of the lack of agency that you have with this deck sometimes.
So many options.
Looked like he picked Poisonous there, which would surprise me a little bit. I guess he's going for poison damage.
Yeah.
In case he loses board.
If so, he's really playing for the late game, right? Which he can afford to do. Yeah.
Yep.
And he can afford to do this because look at the rest of his hand. He could spend the next few turns drawing the whole deck.
Yeah. I think
Just
if he could
save the
see
golem.
Leta's hand, he would be taking a far more aggressive golem in this position than planning for the long game. But I think sight unseen, it's a reasonable plan to have.
It's quiet. Too quiet.
Care to make a wager?
Just go Foxy Swindle again. Very nice.
Yeah, Foxy Fraud, one of the newer additions post-nerf to Rogue again. But you can see the value, right? It allows you to just, most of the time, just draw even more cards.
Yep. Are you considering Shadow Step targets? I think 2 out of the 3 of the minions on board are viable Shadow Step targets here. Goes with the field contact.
Well, there's minion 1.
No.
Progress.
Yeah. He's just going to go. He can gift again here. which will feed 2 more spells into his hands. I believe he's 1 off from being able to cast the power word. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
I think maybe he's okay with it because he might not necessarily want to power word like this push. Like this is more just, well, let's see if it sticks with the Divine Shields first, and then have power word to go off with. Because I think preferably he might even want to power word a Nazmani. Just because it's bigger, right? It's just even bigger.
Sure. Yeah, I think if he did have 1 more spell in hand and he pushed down to 0 that turn, that would have been the absolute dream, right?
Sure.
To be able to immediately pick up 3 more spells. I'm sure he would have jammed it, but yeah, it's not the end of the world. He has Raised Dead, he has another Gift of Luminance in hand already, so he is able to pop off again very quickly.
And it's got a lot of heal, actually. Like this, even this Holy Nova's going to get some work done.
It's true.
Give me that. Not what I want.
This Holy Nova's going to do great jobs today.
And RDU does not have the full clear. Which means he's potentially in trouble. There's a Nazmani off the top. If there is a Nazmani off the top, this game is very potentially over. Okay.
So Nova's 4. Trade. Should he Fortitude now? It doesn't just get like picked off with the dagger, like Fortitude Nova.
I don't mind it. Yeah, I think he needs to hold the Luminance for sure, because that's actually a crucial part of the pop-off turns when he actually gets going.
He's already played 2.
Right. Yeah, but taking control of the board with just like a big minion with Power Word Fortitude does seem pretty reasonable here.
It's just like just don't give them the dagger, right? Because he wants to clear. Because otherwise Kazakas is going to live through this Nova. Then that means you just can't have his Sethic just be daggered down, right? Surely. Because he doesn't even have Rally either. Leta taking his time, and not a deck you normally associate with a lot of time to play your turn in. Let's see how it pays off. Power Infusion, not too bad. Yeah, I think I like keeping this turn relatively simple.
Yep, like this. Like this a lot. Still holding on to the Raised Dead as well, because the ideal Raised Dead in most scenarios is 1 of each, not 2 of the same, because you do want to have combinations of Nazmanis and Sethics going off in tandem.
So many options.
Looks like he's going to commit the Golem. I think this is reasonable, mainly because he must have a very good idea that there's no Nazmanis in hand here for Leta, right? Like, they would have come down a long, long time ago.
And use Hysteria to corrupt the Insight this turn if he wants to. Fish for the discounted Nazmani, and then pop off with Raised Dead on the following turn to get his Sethic, and he has Gift of Luminance to get going as well. There's a route, like I can see it, whether or not it gets there or not, I don't have enough experience with the deck to tell you completely, but there is certainly a route to get going.
Yeah, and I'll bow out of this one as well, because I don't really want to question whatever Leta does with this, because he's playing a lot more than me. But one thing I will say is, with this 5/5 on board, Power Infusion Hysteria is a very interesting combo for next turn.
Power Infusion Hysteria next turn.
Just for the health benefit, right? To just clear the board.
I
the poison.
was not expecting this. Okay. So Leta is just consistently presenting the idea of, like, you need to have sources of damage to deal with my Sethics. Like, every single turn for the last, 3 or 4 turns, he's, like, RDU's had the annoying issue of dealing with Sethics from hand.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? He's kind of playing Rally every turn somehow.
Kind of, yeah.
I don't know how, but he kind of is. And generally what happens is when the priest plays Rally, if they don't go off that turn, then the idea is you have to clear the board, because then they'll just have a nutty turn and the game ends.
Yes.
So Leta's kind of mimicking that somehow, which is pretty impressive since he doesn't have rally.
This is filth, by the way. Org Merchant and Prize Plunderer.
Would you play it all this turn? Well, not all.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out what you want to Tenwu, right? Like, or if you just do want to draw Tenwu later for a finisher. Like, I'm not
Just
sure.
trade.
Like, Dagger actually gets work done here, right? Because you dagger the Divine Shield to get to push 5, which is a really big deal. Yeah, I like this. I like what RDU's doing here.
The only thing that scares me is if this board is cleared somehow, then, like, is the follow-up good enough? I guess so. But he has Alex, right? I actually forgot he had Alex. Yeah, I forgot. I honestly forgot he had Alex in hand. I thought it was the rest of the stuff.
And like honestly, if a board clear happens here, then it like oh my goodness, hang on a minute, that's corrupted insight. Oh, it's the Blade Master though. If he'd have got hold of his second Nazmani there, discounted. Oh,
absolute BM.
But I was gonna say, if he gets his board cleared here, it's likely that Leta kind of devotes his turn to doing that, right? Largely. And as soon as RDU has a turn where he doesn't just have to kill Sethix, he can just discount his hand, right? And then he's in business with the Alex Draza win condition in the late game.
So is this a Samuro and Apotheosis turn? Then go Sethik Nazmani?
Looks that way, right?
Yeah.
He can discover with Thrive here as well. Try and pick up the other copy of Insight that he still has in his deck.
Oh, Rally. Does that change the turn?
Yeah, obviously that incentivizes getting the Nazmani in play. But I think just too much needs to be done here with the
Don't trade into the poison letter. Okay, good.
You, of course, do not survive damage when you trade into poison, so Frenzy does not proc. What cards remaining for RDU? We can look at them here. Ignore the Wicked Stabs. They are ever present on this tracking. Does not quite function with the way they upgrade. So the other 4 cards. Step, Passage, One Thief, Jandis.
Efficient is sufficient.
Oh, yeah, he can start popping off with... He can do the combo, right? No? Procs the Octo on the Alex and the Tenwu. Then he can... well, he has the Shadow Step left, so he can wait for the Shadow Step if he wants. Then he can Alex... Tenwu, Shadow Step Tenwu.
Does Mana Biscuit do anything? I don't think so, right?
I
was thinking, obviously, you can play it this turn because you don't really have that much to do with your mana this turn. I'm just wondering whether that that Innovate actually helps you out later on.
It could do with like a Wicked Stab, right?
True. Yeah.
Like you can do an Alex turn and Wicked Stab them. Like sometimes you do need that extra little bit boost of damage because Priest so consistently heals.
That is Yoink that's come into the hand there as well.
This is the most hit Hunter hero power Yoink I've ever seen.
Did he play the Mana Biscuit? I think he was just scrambling and like touched the wrong card. Wait, he did play the Mana Biscuit. Oh, sorry, that was just the first. I thought that was the actual biscuit.
No.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, bank the mana
bad.
first. Clearly, Sol's clearly not a Mana Biscuit gamer. Well, always a good Hysteria target. That's one bonus of that card.
Yep. And we're off.
Okay, so that's Flash Heal. Powered Feast, potentially the pickup here.
Draconic is playable if that's where the discount lands, which helps him continue to chain through his hand potentially.
And Hysteria's just might be good enough to win the game because RDU doesn't have much stuff left.
It's true. That is true.
I still think it might be Power Word here because... Oh, it's tough.
I mean, Leta clearly agrees, right? He's taking his time over this decision.
So he has to expect, or at least consider, these 2 Wicked Stabs, right? Because that's how his board dies, because he's not managed to buff anything. Ooh, gets a death for the Alex, though, if it's stuck on board.
And it's picked up for RDU.
of life is reborn anew.
Come, friend. Let's see.
He just has it, right? Yeah, he just... Does he have it?
And the
Yeah, he just mana biscuits with...
Oh yeah, the mana biscuit
He's
double.
got it.
All the stabs are one. Yeah, that's just lethal.
Yep,
that's just
insane.
game, and that's just series. And yeah, really nice choice there. The mana biscuit preemptively front loading that mana, and there we go. That's just going to be the game. Nice little combo there with the Tenwu, and I guess that's maybe redemption for the deck soul, because obviously RDU got kind of in a tough spot because he had Tenwu Alex in his hand earlier, and now it seemed to pay off for him in the end and getting that high burst damage against Priest. So again, unlucky for Leta there, he's going to take a loss. And again, the Miracle Priest didn't look great, but it is a deck that looks super bad when it wins and looks fantastic when it, super bad when it loses, fantastic when it wins. So tough one there, but RDU gets through to top 8 Subtle tomorrow.
Yeah, and really good performance, honestly. Like, I know I meme on RDU a lot, but like genuinely and earnestly, I think that was very nicely done, especially in that last game. Like, I called the line like in broad strokes of like, okay, he's dealing with Sethix. As soon as he doesn't have to deal with Sethix anymore, he just discounts his hand and then gets ready to pop off, right? Which is what he did. But describing that in broad strokes versus the actual mechanics of what he had to do on that turn, and then weaving in the Mana Biscuit and the Yoink and getting everything to go off perfectly to set up for that OTK on the following turn, was just beautifully engineered from RDU. Super clean game of Hearthstone. And a great advert, really, for that build of the deck, because he was able to just cycle the whole way through his deck and set up an OTK. Genuinely, while dealing with Sethic Veilweavers every single turn of the game, right? Like, it's not like he wasn't presented problems from the other side. He very much was, but RDU was absolutely able to put it together, and I think is